I really need to be at the forefront of coming up with cutting edge opportunities to attract specific people and then also retain those that I value and not ignore the fact that other businesses are coming up with creative things.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back again to the MISHRM Resource Partner Videocast. I'm your host, Greg Coyne, and today I have another great guest with us. We have Laura Van Houtte. She is the relationship manager for Houtte. She is also a networking guru, and I would love to call her a friend now as we've gotten to know each other, as well as the education coordinator for MISHRM. Tons of stuff there, but all great. And just want to welcome you to the show, Laura.
Oh, I appreciate that, Greg. And yes, you can definitely call me friends. We've definitely been able to build some rapport and get to know each other, which is just one of the many great things about being involved with MISHRM. I love it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And as well as being involved with the resource partner team, they've been great. That's why I'm here. And so what I'd like to just jump in on is get our audience a little bit more familiar with what you do with Houtte. I will say this. There's tons of benefit people and companies out there. And so I just want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about that, but also what separates you from your competition.
That sounds good. Well, there certainly are a lot of benefits people. I mean, you can go to any number of MISHRM event and probably place bets ahead of time saying, hey, I bet at least 5 people are benefits consultants or account executives at a benefits firm or whatnot. But you know what? It's all fun. It's all good. We each have our own unique propositions, our own focuses. And one of the things that I like to tell people is really, I'm an educator. And when I say that to people, they'll say, oh my gosh, you're a teacher? And I'll say, yes and no. I'm not a teacher by trade, but just naturally, I love to help explain things to people, whether it be my children or a family member, or I hate to say it, my husband, I'll teach him to put the dishes in the dishwasher. I'm just kidding. But what really my focus is, Greg, is it relates to benefits consulting is I like educating not only the employees of different businesses in the private space, but I really focus on school districts, K through 12, charter schools, colleges, universities, because probably about 5 years ago, I really saw a disconnect between the staffing groups of these particular entities and the administration, where the staffing groups just had a perception that was really negative. They perceived their benefits to be poor. They weren't happy if they spent some money getting their prescriptions. And it was a real disheartening thing to see because on the flip side, I would say administrators spend countless hours behind closed doors figuring out how to make the plans the best that they could be at the lowest price. So I go in and I really teach those staffing groups, also known as consumers or employees, on how to use their insurance, appreciate them so that they don't have a bad perception of the plans.
I love hearing that. And let me stick with the teaching part, because most consumers, they say they understand their benefits and their health plans. Those are just some of the things that you touch on, but they really don't. And it's typically what they know it as is, oh, it's that time of year, I got to sign up. And that's all they know. So how do you help deal with some of the things that are happening with those consumers based on the fact of, there's increased, not just mental health awareness, but the need for it, as well as health benefits, all of those things. What are some of the things that you can educate some of those consumers on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always tell myself, and I try to instill this into anyone I meet, that stories stick. So a couple things to remember is that healthcare is not just a once a year thing that you do cross off your list and you get on with your day. It's almost like grocery shopping. It's a necessary evil. You have to combat different options. You go to the grocery store, how many types of apples or tomatoes or potatoes can you buy, the brand, the price, the quality? And you're not just doing it in December, 1 week out of the year. You're not just picking your groceries for the year. You're really deciding, okay, based on my family's needs, what I like to eat, what we're trying to accomplish, if we're vegan, if, whatnot. I liken that to healthcare. how is your family spending your healthcare? What prescriptions are you taking? So number one, the mindset shift should really be, this is a lifetime of teaching that you need to take on, and utilize your resources. If you have a broker or a consultant, ask him or her the best method or cadence you can utilize him or her to really understand your plans. Perhaps you want to meet with him once a month. Perhaps you need access to different tools within your carriers. The Blue Crosses of the world, the HAPs, all of the medical carriers spend millions and millions of dollars really creating tools that we as consumers can use. It's just a shame that a lot of people don't know about them. Phone apps, there's different licensed, I wouldn't say physicians, but telemedicine that you can, contract and utilize within your health plan. A lot of these services are just not utilized because they're not at the top of your minds.
So that's great, because you're spot on. I know with some of the stuff that we do, with my wife's health plan, we do a ton of that, whether it be telemedicine or just being able to communicate using the technology that's there. So part of it is, you're able to teach people this. So how do you instill in them that this is something that they can take action on? Because most people will say, well, I don't know how, or they'll throw their hands up. So outside of just teaching them, what's another way that you can, obviously that's a big proponent, but what's another way that you can get them to drink the water? Like in the analogy, you can lead a horse to water, you can't get them to drink. We want them to drink.
Well, I would say people are not interested in really grasping something or having something stick in their mind until it's what's in it for me. And unfortunately, that it means a surgery coming up or an expensive drug. Quite frankly, you can teach all of this material, but until somebody has a major expense, that's when they become interested. So the best thing that I can do for them at that point with that mindset is to give them the contact information of different resources and say, at the very least, can you just do me one thing? And that is and I give them a sheet of key contacts with myself included. I said, at the very least, can you just do one thing? Here's a contact sheet, put it in your glove box or put it in, like we have a little drawer next to our fridge. Can you put it in the drawer? Can you put it someplace where when you have that what's in it for me event that occurs, you'll know to pull that out and call myself or call the carrier or call somebody, so that you can, with open ears and an open mind, now begin to retain and grasp the information. And I am the same way. I'm a consumer. I have a busy life. I want to cut to the chase. So I just want things easy. Back in 2012, I had a major surgery, and it wasn't until then when I really understood how expensive drugs could be. One of my prescriptions was not covered. It happened to be an oral antibiotic that was $2,000 in a glass bottle, and I dropped it. So talk about frustrations with your health. And not only then, I felt like I was dropping the magic potion, and there goes $2,000 just out the door. So, you have a lot of stressor. So then, I was able to say, okay, regroup. And I use that story all the time. I actually have, when you go get a prescription, you have a million bajillion pieces of paper, including the things that are stapled to your prescription.
Yeah.
I have that piece of paper with the actual dollar amount of that prescription, and I take it to employee meetings and I show them all the time.
Wow.
So that's just one example of things that people can do.
I love hearing these visuals and these stories because they're more impactful than just telling somebody something, and they have to sometimes believe it themselves. And those are great visuals and stories to help them kind of lead them into that conversation. So there's a couple things too. You've already given us a lot. And I know that you're helping a lot of HR professionals, business leaders in terms of choosing those benefits. What's one thing, if you had to pick them out, that you wish other HR professionals knew or would make more important when it comes to choices on benefits?
I would say one of the key things in today's economic state and today's point in time is to take back and just think, what is my culture like today, and where do we want it to be 3 years from now, and how can benefits affect in a positive way what I'm trying to accomplish? I always do what's called a think tank session with any client at least once a year. And what that means is we'll get together via Zoom or in person. And at the very least for 20 minutes, we'll say, okay, what are your business goals? And I don't care if they're benefits related or not. Maybe you're trying to hire 50 employees, maybe you're trying to scale back. But if you and I were to sit here 3 years from now and look back at the past 3 years, what happened to your business and what happened in your role in order for you to say, hey, that was a successful 3 years. And then it gives me clarity on being able to design and give advice and really dictate based on my market knowledge, what components within their benefits plan or packages they should definitely take into account.
I love that. And let me dovetail with regards to that, because I heard about, you're looking at it from a business standpoint, which is awesome. The fact is that most HR and business leaders don't think about it in terms of benefits, how it's helping to retain or recapture or recruit those types of people that are going to build that culture that they're looking for. So most people, they want to have that culture, good or bad. They want to continue it because sometimes they're not aware of it. But what do you think is that you've been able to see or witness or hear that is a huge benefit to recruiting and retaining those highly valuable employees?
One thing I've seen, and there's no getting around the fact that retention is an issue, whether you're in the public sector, the private sector, whether you've had employees work with you for 20 years, 5 years. I mean, quite frankly, you and I probably get solicited all the time. But the one thing that I think people should take into account is there's not a one size fits all. I might hire somebody that just graduated from college 12 months ago who has a great deal of pressure in eliminating that student debt. But I'm also trying to recruit and retain somebody in their mid 40s to 50s that have already established a family. They're looking toward retirement, and they're not worried about necessarily how much is coming out of their check for health insurance. So I need to design plans, not necessarily always health insurance related, but I really need to be at the forefront of coming up with cutting edge opportunities to attract specific people and then also retain those that I value, and not ignore the fact that other businesses are coming up with creative things. I mean, you talk about paternity benefits. Probably 10 years ago, we would have never thought to give some benefits to dads when the mother birthed the baby. But now, if you don't, you could be in jeopardy of losing that employee, or at least allowing that employee to take a phone call from another competitor of yours.
I love hearing that for this reason. We always talk when it comes to sales and people managing teams that their best clients are at the top of competitors' prospecting lists. It's the same thing with employees. Other people, if they're doing a great job, there's other companies that want to poach them and bring them over to their realm, especially if they bring about good culture, they're good leaders, you name it. So I love hearing that. How are we as businesses going to separate ourselves from our competition? So one more question I do want to find out, and that's this. We talked about it. We'll kind of circle back to finish up, and that is, everyone is we see a ton of benefit companies are out there. Everyone's looking for a piece of the pie. What I want to find out is what's something that people might misunderstand about you and Houtte. What's something that they may not exactly get?
I think that anytime people hear insurance or sales or benefits consultant, one of the assumptions from that person is that, okay, we just want to try to sell you something or get in the door or change some piece of your program in order to, quote unquote, bring a better proposition to you. And that's not the case. I'm a very strategic thinker, and my approach to any opportunity, whether it be, a nice opportunity that I've been looking forward to get in the door with, or a new referral that somebody may have presented to me with, my approach is, number one, let's identify what both of us are trying to accomplish. And number two, let's just see what is broken or maybe causing you concern with your current situation that you can fix without changing anything. Because the last thing that I want is for somebody to maybe join forces with me and allow me to serve as their agent. But then 3 years down the road, they don't communicate something to me like they had a problem or we weren't on the same page with, I wouldn't want them to just leave me without giving me a chance. So I think the misconception is that I or any other benefit consultant will do whatever we can to earn your business. That may be or to try to get your business ethical or not. That may be true with some salespeople, but it's definitely not me. I just like a good reputation to always be a problem solver, not trying to just earn business any way I can.
I love it. I love it. And I think that there are a lot of people that respect that, especially business owners who are trying to grow. They want to know that you're a partner and that it's more than just benefits. It's understanding a strategy that's going to work for them. So that's great stuff. Before we go, I want to make sure that people, if they want to reach out to you, can do so. So how do people contact you, Laura?
Well, this is always by me, unfortunately, but fortunately, my cell phone. So they can always call me. They can always send me a text message. My personal number is 810-305-0845. And then, of course, along with the phone comes the email, which is also on my phone. So it's Laura, my first name, Laura, dot my last name, Van Houtte, which I think it'll be on the screen. VANHOUTTE, no space in my email, and then at hubinternational.com. So yeah, I love, even if somebody wants to bounce an idea or, ask me a question, I'm always willing to chat.
Yeah, I love that because I think a lot of people, when they hear contact information, like, oh, they're going to try and sell me something. And I think at the end of the day, from knowing you, it's not like that. It's got to be the right fit. And I hope that as we start to have these shows that more and more people understand, it's not about the sale. It's about understanding if you're the right fit, and that works for both sides. Not everyone's the right fit for everyone else. And what's the old adage? There's a lid for every pot. That's kind of how this is when it comes to people's benefits plans. So Laura, I really appreciate you being on today. Thank you again, and hope to have you on again soon.
Sounds good, Greg. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
And for all of those that are watching, thanks again for being here. We had, again, Laura Van Houtte from Hub International, and she is also our education coordinator for MISHRM and a wonderful friend and networking guru. Until next time, everyone, I'm Greg Coyne, and hope you enjoyed this session with us on the MISHRM Resource Partners videocast. Until next time, thanks and have a great one, everyone.